Thank you, Tamara. Welcome, everybody. As mentioned, my name is John Ryder. I am the General Manager for Sage 100 Enhancements at DSD Business Systems. The product I'm going to show you today is our Instadocs. We have over 500 enhancements to Sage 100, and the Instadocs suite of enhancements was developed a little over 10 years ago. And I'm excited to show you this product. It's one of my favorite products to show. Um, so what is Instadocs? It is a storage method for electronic documents so that within Sage 100, you can see those documents on specific records like customer records or invoice records. You can drag and drop documents to the Instadocs screen right in Sage 100, and you can open those documents. So it's pretty easy to use. Again, it allows for electronic storage of documents. It'll store it out on your server, or if you have a local drive, you can store it there, or you can also store it in cloud storage. So this is really the first and only document management system that's embedded within Sage 100. There are other document management systems out there by third parties, and there's some integration points in their software, but we're a Sage 100 developers, so we have the capability of modifying the screens so you can see the documents directly, right? And as mentioned, the main feature is the ability to quickly see those documents and access them within Sage 100. There are six key features. I mentioned easy access. So you can be in customer maintenance, vendor maintenance, item maintenance, and there's a tab there that shows all of the documents associated with that record. We also have data entry panels modified for the Instadocs tab, as well as the history inquiries. So as mentioned, you can copy and paste a document right to the screen. You can drag and drop. You can double click on a document to open it. And then the next feature is document tagging. So you can select a document on a record and then tag it with a specific keyword or phrase. Um, you can do multiple tags, and you can tag multiple documents at the same time. Once you've tagged the document, then you get to the third feature, which is the master search. This is where you can search all documents for a customer or vendor, or search all Instadocs files for that specific keyword or phrase, or even where the document came from. The fourth feature is paperless office integration. So with paperless office, standard Sage 100, you can have uh, forms such as sales order forms, invoice forms, saved as PDF into a repository. But with Instadocs, it takes it one step further where you can save that sales order PDF or invoice PDF into the customer's directory, right? And then you can then see that from within customer maintenance or even from order entry or invoice entry. So that PDF integration, paperless office, that is, so it's in all of the Instadocs modules, right? The fifth feature is cloud storage. So when we designed this many years ago, OneDrive was the cloud storage. So as long as your network has the ability to see and access a cloud drive, you can use Instadocs uh, to have the document access on that cloud storage system. Finally, we have security. So you have the ability to set up by the role in role maintenance whether that role is allowed to see the Instadocs tab, or if they can see it, but can they open the documents that are on the tab? Can they delete it? Can they email it? And so on. So when we first designed Instadocs, we did the core modules and the distribution modules, which was APAR, inventory, PO, and SO. Again, this was a little over 10 years ago. Since then, we've added, um, I think we've completed all the modules in Sage 100 system. So we have general ledger, job cost, production management, payroll, RMA, If you have DSD Service Center, we have Instadocs for that. And we just recently, about a month ago, which would be, you know, July 2026, we released bill of materials. So that was really the remaining module. So we now have Instadocs for all of these modules, and you can purchase whichever ones you need. There is some caveats. If you need sales order, you do need to get the accounts receivable Instadocs. Same thing on the APPO side. If you get the purchase order Instadocs, you would need to get the AP Instadocs in order to have both modules work together. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start the demo now. Okay, so this is my Sage 100 system. The version I'm running is the latest 2026 version. I do have Instadocs installed for all modules here, and I'm going to start with accounts receivable. So much of what I'm going to show you here is almost identical to what you'll see in accounts payable, as well as some of the other modules. So I'm going to go ahead and start with customer maintenance so you can see what that Instadocs tab looks like. I'm going to pull up the first customer, and then you can see the last tab is Instadocs. So here, this tab is identical in all of the other places in the modules, such as the maintenance programs, data entry, history inquiries. The look and feel of the screen is identical in all places. So we show you the document directory that we're working on. I'll show you in a moment how to set up the default directory, as well as the naming convention for the customer subdirectories. You also have an archive directory where you can move documents between a document directory and an archive directory. And then down here are all the documents for that customer. Again, it's showing the files that are sitting out in that directory. And again, that directory can be on your network or it could be cloud storage as well. There's different views for the contents. The view that I'm using is details view. It looks similar to Microsoft Explorer where you can sort the columns. You can move the columns around if you want. And you can then see the document types. Right? We have other views like small icon, we have medium icon, large icon, extra large icon, and tiles. For extra large icon, it's useful in inventory maintenance if you have JPEG files that are the the picture of the item. So that's always good to use this in inventory Instadocs. But here in other modules, I use the details view. All right, so it's showing you the documents. Again, if you have security turned on, you can enable which roles can see the documents or open the documents, and also drag and drop into the screen. So the first main feature is being able to see the documents. Next is being able to open them. So if I just double click here, it'll open up this PDF document. Same thing with a Word document or Excel spreadsheet. You just double click on it and it'll open up. The next major feature is drag and drop, and this is actually my favorite feature. So I have a repository directory. This is actually all of our user manuals for DSD. So here you can take a document and you can drag and drop it over. I'm going to actually move to another customer. So you can see this customer has two documents. I can drag this document from here to here. Now you'll see that there's three documents, right? You can also drag and drop multiple documents all at once. Try it again. And so you can see it dragged all four documents over. I can also right click on a document in the repository and like copy. And I can also right click here and paste it directly into the Instadocs tab. I can also go in the other direction. So I can take a document here in Instadocs, I can right click it, select copy, and then I can paste it over here into this directory, which it already exists, right? I can also drag and drop from here to here. You can also have two customer maintenance screens open at once, one for one customer, one for another, and you can drag one document from one customer over to another customer if you would like. And again, it does a copy, not a cut and paste. It just copies it from one place to the other. So the drag and drop and copy and paste capability is important. We just recently added the ability to take an email. You can drag an attachment from an email directly into Instadocs, and you can also drag the entire email itself into Instadocs. So that's a feature we added a few months back. All right, so that's the drag and drop capability. Next up, we have the tagging, right? So here you can tag select a document, and on the right side, the first button you see, that's looks like a magic wand button. When you select it, here's where you can tag a document with a specific keyword or phrase. So here I can say John was here. I have a comment. So I can say, so this is the webinar, August 2026. It stores the source, in other words, where it was tagged from. So that could be customer maintenance, or it could be a data entry or invoice history inquiry. It also shows the user that tagged it and the date and timestamp of the tag. You can do unlimited tags. We also have template tags. These are set up in Instadocs options and under accounts receivable. You have unlimited template tags, and these are just tags that you use over and over again. And it's helpful to have these template tags because you can then search on them later on. So I'm going to select customer PO for this tag. You can also do tagging of multiple files all at the same time. I'll select these 4 files. I'll select the template tag of customer PO and hit accept. Now if I look at this last one, you can see that it was tagged. So all 4 of those were tagged all at the same time. So once you've tagged documents, and again, in data entries where you'll also have Instadocs, there's something called auto tag, where it'll automatically tag a document dragged into the invoice with a tag that's the invoice number. Same with sales order entry, it'll tag it with the sales order number. I'll show you that in a moment. But once you've tagged documents, then you have the search capability. So there's 2 ways to do searching. One is there's the binoculars button here on the right, where you can select the search panel. And then under utilities, we also have Instadoc Super Search for each module, and it's basically a quick way to get to this search panel. But if you select the search panel from customer maintenance, it's going to start searching for documents that are for the customer that you've selected. You can also search all directories as well, so it searches all customer files, right? So here I'm going to go ahead and search this customer directory for the customer PO template tag. I can click search, and here it's going to show you all of the files, right, that it found with that tag. From here, you can double click on the file and open up the file. You can also look at the tags. You can delete tags and change tags. And then you can also open the file up with a button here, although double clicking works the same. And then you can also click the subdirectory button, which it shows you the subdirectory in which these files exist. I can also remove tags with the remove tags button, where it's going to remove any orphan tags. And then there's a copy document where I say all these documents that I found, I want to select these and move them or copy them over to another directory of my choice. Okay. I can also click on search all directories. So when I do that, it's going to search all customers' directories for that tag of customer PO. And you can see here, if I look at the directory, you have ABF, ABS, present, and so on. I can also search based on the source and where it came from. So if I only want to see documents that were put into, let's say, AR invoice entry, I can search there. So you can see this document has a source from an invoice, right? And it was for customer ABF. And then finally, you can search on file name. So you don't just have to search on the tag. You can search for a specific file name or contains, the file name contains some characters, and in that case, it'll search all the customer directories, not just the tags. All right, so that's the search capability. Um, you can also, have a document that's dragged and dropped into the customer directory through File Explorer, while you're here, and then you can just hit the refresh button, and then it'll show that new file that was added somewhere else. We also have archiving. So we talked about that earlier, where you can define an archive directory. So when you select this button, then you can take the documents that are in the main or current directory, and you can move them over to the archive directory. So here I'm going to select these two. I'm going to hit this button here, and then hit proceed, and it's going to move those files from the current directory over into the archive directory. Okay. And then here you can toggle between what's in archive versus what's in current. Okay. As mentioned, as you browse through the records of customer maintenance, it'll redisplay the documents for each customer. And if you find a customer that does not yet have a directory set up, it's going to derive the directory name based on the naming conventions and setup, which I'll show you in a moment. And then now, if I take a document and drag and drop it over, it'll first create that subdirectory, right? And then it'll copy and put that document into that directory. So as mentioned, when we designed this product, we wanted to make it easy to use. And so when we talked to a lot of customers, end users, and Sage 100 partners, and we talked to them about how they store their documents, 95% of the time, they just store the documents out on their network, right? And they have it separated by the customer number. And DSD actually did the same thing. So we designed this product around that concept, right? So the way you can structure your Instadocs is that this is where we're keeping Instadocs, and you can have it broken out by customers or employees or items. If you have job costs, you have jobs, AP vendors, work tickets for production management, and then underneath that, you have the subdirectories for each customer. So let's talk about the setup of Instadocs. So on the AR setup menu, we have Instadoc setup options. So for each Instadocs module that you have installed, there's going to be an Instadoc setup options on the setup menu. And this is where you basically set up the default directory and naming conventions. So as mentioned, this is the directory that I'm storing all documents for my customers. And then there's a subdirectory underneath that that's specific for the customer. So as mentioned, this is what I have set up for my customers. That is the default path, right? And then underneath that is the subdirectory. In this case, it's the customer number. But you can define how the subdirectory is named, right? And that's done here. So we have the default path, and then we also have an archive path, right? So you can see on the right side under archive, I got the same type of subdirectory structure here. So if you're setting this up for the first time and you already have a directory structure out on your server, you could also import in the subdirectories to the customer records, so it's going to automatically point, or you can just set up a new structure. So as mentioned, we have the naming convention here, and then down here is the naming convention for the subdirectory. So I have it set to customer number, which matches what you see here on the right side. But you also have the ability of doing customer name or customer number underscore customer name. So however you choose this, that's how the subdirectories will be created in the Instadocs default path folder. Okay. We also have paperless. So I talked earlier about being able to print sales orders and invoices or any form documents where it will automatically save that document into the customer directory. And it'll auto tag it with the document number, such as the sales order or whatever. But here's the naming convention of how it creates the PDF. So in standard paperless Office, when you enable paperless Office, then when you print a document, it saves it into the paperless Office repository directory. But with Instadocs, it'll also save it into the customers directory. And here you can select whether you want a prompt. So when you're done printing orders or invoices, it'll prompt you to save the documents into Instadocs, or you can select yes to have it automatically do it. So that's it for the main tab of options. The second tab has to do with setting up template tags. So first you can enable the tagging of documents, and then you have unlimited template tags that you can use when tagging documents. For paperless printing of forms and electronic delivery, you have that for accounts receivable invoices and statements. You have it for sales orders and sales order invoices. Um, we have the ability of when you're delivering an order or invoice to the customer's email, you can also include all of the documents that's on the Instadocs tab, right, in the sales order entry or invoice entry. Um, but you may not want to send all of those documents. If you don't want to send all of the documents, then you can use a reserved word tag, right? So you can have a reserved word called Instadocs. And so you can tag those documents with that reserved word, and only those documents will be included when doing delivery. All right, so that's the setup options. Now I want to show you the data entry. Again, it's very similar to what you see in customer maintenance. I'm going to go ahead and set up a invoice number here, and I'm going to get to the Instadocs tab. So here, the functionality is the same as we saw in customer maintenance with one small change. So the drag and drop capability is the same, right? So I'm going to drag a document onto the invoice. So it's actually saving this document into the customer's directory, but it's auto tagging it with the invoice number. So you can see the invoice number is the same as the tag. Therefore, anything that's being displayed in this invoice entry Instadocs tab has a tag of the invoice number. Now you could also add other tags, right? So I could add customer PO here as well. So the document number is the auto tag. So it's the same as like sales order entry. The tag would be the sales order number, right? And then PO receipt of goods, it's the PO receipt number. And you can see here the source is AR invoice. Okay. All right, so that's the auto tag capability. And then next up, we have the printing. So if I choose to print the invoices, right, or preview them. So I'm just going to go ahead and preview the invoices. There's the invoice that's previewed. And in setup options, I have it set up to prompt me to save those invoices to Instadocs. So I'll go ahead and say yes here. And then I'm going to go back into invoice data entry and pull up that invoice. And you'll see it has the document I dragged and dropped, right, with the tag of the invoice number and the tag of the customer PO. And it also has the PDF of the invoice using the naming convention I set up in InstaDocs options. And of course, the tag is the invoice number, and I can add more tags as well. And as mentioned, if I'm doing electronic delivery, on the bottom of the screen, I can attach all the tag documents when it's doing paperless office, delivery of the invoice to the customer. It'll include these two documents, right? Or I can also do that reserved word tagging where I only want this document to go over. All right, so that shows the paperless office capabilities, the data entries, um, and then so that's kind of it for accounts receivable. Accounts payable, as mentioned, is very similar. Vendor maintenance. We have the Instadocs tabs here. Same functionality where these are the documents for the vendor. I have a default directory for all vendors that's in setup. So AP Instadocs has similar setup where you can say what's the default path, the archive path, the naming convention for checks, right? Because that's the form printing. The naming convention for the vendor subdirectory, and then also the ability to set up tags. For sales order and purchase order, those rely on accounts receivable and accounts payable Instadocs being installed and set up. So if I were to look at the setup for sales order Instadocs, there's no there's no default path because it's going to use the default path for the customer, right? Same with purchase order. The PO Instadocs setup will use the naming convention for AP, the directory path. And of course the customer's naming convention. But we have the ability to set up paperless, how the paperless form is saved into the customer's directory. And we have some additional features where I can auto tag an invoice with the sales order number that it came from. And then if you drag and drop a document to an invoice, it'll auto tag it with the sales order number. Or if I drag and drop something to a sales order that has an invoice, it'll tag it with the invoice, and so on. We have new features where you can include inventory item documents when we're delivering the email. So if I'm sending an invoice to a customer, I may want to include a document that is set up for each item on the invoice, right? So it could be installation instructions or whatever. So as mentioned, we have Instadocs for pretty much every module. So when you install these modules, you'll see them on our DSD enhancement control panel. So we have all of these modules available. Bill of materials is the new one. It allows you to set up documents for the bill of material or the bill of material plus revision. We have general ledger Instadocs that allows you to set up documents by source journal. We have lot serial Instadocs, so you can have documents for lot serial numbers. Inventory items, we have job cost, production management, which is for work tickets. Payroll, so you have employees that can have Instadocs. And then RMA, which does require AR Instadocs and sales order Instadocs to be installed. So that concludes the presentation of Instadocs today. Tamara, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to you. Thanks.
Perfect. So we did reach the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and wrap up today's webinar. Today's session was a really quick, brief overview of Instadocs, and we weren't able to cover every feature or use case, but we would love to hear your thoughts and answer any remaining questions and learn more about your needs. Our team will be following up in the coming days to continue the conversation. Again, thank you so much to John for today's presentation, and thank you all for your time. If you do have any questions, please contact us. You can email enhancements@dsdinc.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.